Police in Maryland making an arrest in the disappearance and murder of 19-year-old Dakara Thompson. The suspect, a man in the country illegally, who was in federal custody earlier this year. Fox 5's Bob Barnard live in Bowie tonight with the latest from police. Bob?
Picture this. You're 19 years old. It's 3 a.m. and your car is running on fumes in an empty parking lot. A stranger in a black SUV pulls up and offers help. You have 3 seconds to decide. Trust them or walk away into the darkness alone. Dakara Thompson chose trust. It killed her. The surveillance footage from August 23, 2024 shows exactly how a split-second decision can become a death sentence. At 3:07 a.m., cameras captured Dakara approaching that black SUV in Hyattsville, Maryland. The driver's face is hidden in shadows, but his intentions were crystal clear. She hesitates, glances around the empty lot, then opens the passenger door. By 3:08 a.m., she was gone forever. What happened next in that vehicle was so horrific that when police finally found the evidence, seasoned detectives couldn't sleep for weeks. This is how predators hunt, and why your next late-night decision could be your last. Dakara Thompson wasn't supposed to die at 19. She was supposed to change the world, one person at a time. Fresh out of St. Charles High School in Waldorf, this young woman had already dedicated her life to something bigger than herself. While most teenagers her age were focused on social media and weekend parties, Dakara was working at a nonprofit through a service program for recent graduates. She lived with her father in Lanham, a quiet Washington, D.C. suburb where neighbors knew each other's names and looked out for one another. Dakara was the kind of person who volunteered at community events, helped elderly neighbors with groceries, and genuinely believed that small acts of kindness could ripple into something beautiful. Her supervisor described her as reliable, compassionate, and driven. Her father called her his pride and joy. Her friends knew her as the one who always answered her phone, no matter what time they called. That's exactly why what happened on August 23rd felt so impossible to everyone who loved her. August 23rd started like any other Thursday for Dakara. She finished her shift at the nonprofit, had dinner with her father, and settled in for what should have been a quiet evening at home. But sometime after midnight, her car's gas gauge hit empty, and she made a decision that would haunt her family forever. Instead of waiting until morning, instead of asking her father for help, Dakara grabbed her keys and headed out into the Maryland night to find an open gas station. It was a decision millions of young people make every week without thinking twice. Run out for gas, grab some snacks, be back home in 20 minutes. But at 3 a.m., the world becomes a different place. Predators know this. They count on young women making exactly these kinds of routine decisions. They patrol empty parking lots and 24-hour gas stations, waiting for someone like Dakara to appear alone and vulnerable in the darkness. The surveillance timeline tells a chilling story. At 2:58 a.m., Dakara's car appears on camera at a Hyattsville gas station, but something goes wrong. Maybe her card was declined. Maybe the pump malfunctioned, or maybe she realized she'd forgotten her wallet. We'll never know for certain. What we do know is that at 3:04 a.m., she's standing alone in that parking lot, probably calling someone for help or trying to figure out her next move. That's when the black SUV appears, circling the lot, like a shark sensing blood in the water. Hugo Hernandez Mendez had been hunting that night, and Dakara Thompson became his prey. 19-year-old Dakara Thompson made one decision at 3 a.m. that cost her everything. But most of you will watch this and never think twice about your own late-night safety habits. Subscribe if you're actually going to learn from Dakara's story. Then comment what time you draw the line for going out alone. Or maybe you think young women's safety isn't worth changing your habits for. Explain in the comments why you won't hit that subscribe button. Because while you're deciding whether this story matters enough for your subscription, Dakara's father is planning a funeral instead of a 20th birthday party. The surveillance footage from that Hyattsville parking lot reveals something that will make your skin crawl. At 3:05 a.m., while Dakara stands alone by her empty gas tank, a black SUV enters the frame from the east entrance. But here's what's terrifying. This isn't random. The vehicle doesn't pull up to a gas pump or head toward the convenience store. Instead, it makes a slow, deliberate circle around the parking lot, like a predator sizing up its prey. The driver can clearly see Dakara from this distance, a young woman alone in the middle of the night, obviously in distress. For 2 full minutes, the SUV idles in the shadows at the far end of the lot. Then, at exactly 3:07 a.m., it begins moving toward her. The headlights cut through the darkness as 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez closes in on his victim. Hugo Hernandez Mendez wasn't supposed to be on American streets that night. The 35-year-old was living in the United States without legal status, a shadow amongst shadows in Bowie, Maryland. Just 4 months earlier, in April, he'd been arrested by U.S. Park Police for driving under the influence. Any reasonable person would assume that meant deportation, removal from our communities. But the system failed Dakara Thompson before she ever met her killer. Federal authorities released Hugo pending trial, allowing him to disappear back into the darkness where predators thrive. He had access to that black SUV. He had freedom to roam, and he had developed a taste for hunting vulnerable women in the early morning hours. What Dakara saw approaching her that night was someone offering help. What was actually coming toward her was a man who had already decided she wasn't going home. Predators like Hugo don't hunt randomly. They study human behavior like scientists. They know that at 3 a.m., when you're stranded and scared, your survival instincts actually work against you. Your brain is wired to seek help, to trust the person who stops when everyone else drives by. This is called exploitation of prosocial behavior, and it's exactly how serial killers like Ted Bundy operated for years. They fake injuries, pretend to need. She made a choice based on incomplete information, just like you do every single day. Maybe Hugo told her he had gas in a container at his house nearby. Maybe he offered to drive her to an open station. Maybe he said his wife was waiting in the car and they'd help her out. Whatever lie he told, it sounded reasonable enough to a tired, stranded teenager who just wanted to get home safely. Dakara Thompson got into that vehicle because she believed in the goodness of strangers. That belief killed her. Directions, or in Hugo's case, offer assistance to someone clearly in distress. They count on your basic human decency to become your downfall. Hugo had been perfecting this technique, possibly for months or even years before he encountered Dakara. He knew that a 19-year-old girl alone at a gas station would be grateful for help, not suspicious of danger. He weaponized her kindness and turned her compassion into a death trap. The question that haunts everyone who knew Dakara is simple. Why did she get into that SUV? The surveillance shows her talking to Hugo through his driver's side window for nearly 30 seconds before she walks around to the passenger side. She wasn't dragged. She wasn't forced at gunpoint that we can see.
In the case of a young woman from Prince George's County who went missing 2 weeks ago. Today, police confirmed 19-year-old Dakara Thompson's body has been found, and they say her killer has been arrested. Our Katie Lusso spoke with Dakara's family and walks us through what we've learned from new court documents tonight. And I do have to warn you, some of these details are deeply disturbing.
This is the last spot that Dakara was seen alive on surveillance footage tonight. There are candles down on the ground and notes on this pole. Her family telling me they are absolutely heartbroken, really just trying to process what happened, but also immensely grateful for the outpouring of support they saw these past 2 weeks.
I should be back soon. I love you too. Good night.
That's the text she sent her father just before midnight, the night of August 22nd. Less than 2 hours later, surveillance footage shows her parking her car on Jasmine Terrace, getting out and walking towards Riggs Road. Friday, new court documents revealing that she apparently continued walking toward University Boulevard and is then seen on surveillance cameras talking to the driver of a black GMC Yukon XL Denali, getting in on the passenger side and leaving. Police say cell phone records show she remained in that car until they arrived to Cambridge Road in Bowie. It's there where police believe she was killed by a man named Hugo Hernandez Mendez in the early morning hours of August 23rd.
We believe the murder occurred in the home on Cambridge Drive in Hernandez's bedroom.
Investigators believe he then took her body the same morning to Route 50 between Route 424 and Route 97 and threw her over the bridge above South River. It was more than a week later, around 5 p.m. on August 31st, that police would find her body. They had responded to the bridge for a disabled vehicle and happened to see her about 30 feet below the bridge on the river embankment.
That area is probably about 7 miles away from the murder location, but a good distance away from where she went missing. So we are thankful that the Maryland State Police had the ability to locate that body based on that call for service.
The news devastating for her family, her mother telling WUSA 9 Friday night that they are still trying to process everything. For nearly 2 weeks, they searched desperately, held vigils, and pleaded for her safe return.
I just simply want my daughter back.
Now her community will stand behind her family as we seek justice for her.
Now, the family has created a GoFundMe page. Initially, it was for search efforts and to hire a private investigator. That money, though, will now be used for funeral costs. We've posted a link to it on our website, WUSA9.com. In Prince George's County, I'm Katie Lusso, WUSA 9.
She made a choice based on incomplete information, just like you do every single day. Maybe Hugo told her he had gas in a container at his house nearby. Maybe he offered to drive her to an open station. Maybe he said his wife was waiting in the car and they'd help her out. Whatever lie he told, it sounded reasonable enough to a tired, stranded teenager who just wanted to get home safely. Dakara Thompson got into that vehicle because she believed in the goodness of strangers. That belief killed her. Dakara trusted someone in her moment of need, and it killed her. Hit subscribe if you believe we need to talk about how predators exploit our basic human instincts to help each other. Then comment about a time you helped a stranger or accepted help. Or maybe you think discussing trust and vulnerability is pointless. Tell us in the comments why you refuse to subscribe to content that could save lives. When Dakara's father woke up on Friday morning, August 23rd, he expected to find his daughter asleep in her bedroom after her late-night gas run. Instead, he found an empty house and a silence that would haunt him forever. Her bed hadn't been slept in. Her phone went straight to voicemail. By noon, panic had set in completely. This wasn't like Dakara. She always called, always checked in, always let someone know where she was going. Her father contacted everyone in her phone, every friend, every co-worker, every person who might have seen her. When those calls led nowhere, he made the decision that every parent prays they'll never have to make. He drove to the Prince George's County Police Department and filed a missing person report for his 19-year-old daughter. For 48 hours, Dakara's family lived in a nightmare that never ended. Her father organized search parties that combed through every park, every parking lot, every place she might have stopped that night. Friends from high school printed hundreds of missing person flyers with her smiling face, posting them on telephone poles and store windows throughout Prince George's County. Social media exploded with shares and reposts as the community desperately tried to bring Dakara home. Her co-workers at the nonprofit took time off to join the search, walking through wooded areas and calling her name until their voices gave out. Every phone call brought hope. Every dead end brought despair. Meanwhile, Hugo Hernandez Mendez was going about his normal routine, probably watching the news coverage of the search efforts with sick satisfaction. While a family was falling apart, while a community was mobilizing, he knew exactly where Dakara was, and that she was never coming home. Sunday, August 25th, brought the discovery that shattered every remaining hope. Dakara's family found her car abandoned in Hyattsville, Maryland, the same area where surveillance would later reveal her final moments. The vehicle was parked on a residential street, doors unlocked, keys missing, gas tank still empty. Inside, they found her purse with her identification, some cash, and personal items that proved she hadn't planned to disappear. There were no signs of a struggle in the car, no broken windows, no blood. It was as if Dakara had simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind only questions and the family's worst fears. The discovery of her car transformed this from a missing person case into something much darker. Police immediately expanded their investigation, knowing that abandoned vehicles rarely mean happy endings in cases like these. Sunday, August 25th, brought the discovery that shattered every remaining hope. Dakara's family found her car abandoned in Hyattsville, Maryland, the same area where surveillance would later reveal her final moments. The vehicle was parked on a residential street, doors unlocked, keys missing, gas tank still empty. Inside, they found her purse with her identification, some cash, and personal items that proved she hadn't planned to disappear. There were no signs of a struggle in the car, no broken windows, no blood. It was as if Dakara had simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind only questions and the family's worst fears. The discovery of her car transformed this from a missing person case into something much darker. Police immediately expanded their investigation, knowing that abandoned vehicles rarely mean happy endings in cases like these. News of Dakara's disappearance sent shockwaves through the tight-knit communities of Lanham and Hyattsville. Parents started walking their teenage daughters to work. Gas stations reported increased security requests, and women began traveling in groups during late-night hours. The fear was palpable. If someone like Dakara could vanish without a trace, no one was safe. Local churches organized prayer vigils, while community volunteers coordinated search efforts that stretched across multiple counties. But beneath the solidarity was a growing dread that everyone felt, but no one wanted to voice. With each passing day, the chances of finding Dakara alive were slipping away, and a predator was still walking free among them. For 2 days, Dakara's family searched while she was already gone, but most viewers will watch this family's pain and feel nothing. Subscribe if you understand that behind every missing person case is a family in hell. Then comment how long you'd search for someone you love. Or maybe other people's family tragedies don't move you. Explain in the comments why you won't subscribe to honor victims' families. In 2024, you can't commit murder and expect to disappear.
19-year-old Dakara Thompson disappeared 12 days ago. She was last seen on August 22nd in Prince George's County. Surveillance video shows her parking her car the wrong direction in front of a fire hydrant on Jasmine Terrace, then walking towards Riggs Road.
Good afternoon.
Prince George's County Police Chief George Nader says a body matching her description was recovered Sunday.
On August the 31st, we were notified that Maryland State Police located a body. That body was located just off of Route 50 in Anne Arundel County.
He says since Dakara went missing, police have been working with her family, searching through security footage and looking through cell phone information, and say there's still more work to be done to officially identify the body found off of Route 50.
The characteristics were similar. We have not yet confirmed that this is the missing. I want to make that very clear.
Dakara's family has spent the past 12 days searching for her and posting missing persons flyers. Prince George's County Executive Aisha Braveboy says they've been in touch with Dakara's family and they know about the development.
She's someone's child, someone's baby. And so our heart goes out to her entire family. And we will, again, continue to work diligently to bring some resolution and information to her family as well as to the public.
Maryland State Police are handling the death investigation. Prince George's County Police say their missing person investigation is ongoing.
Disturbing new details today as police in Maryland announce an arrest in the disappearance and murder of 19-year-old Dakara Thompson. The suspect, a man in the U.S. illegally who was in federal custody earlier this year. Let's get right out to Fox 5's Bob Barnard live in Bowie, where police say Dakara was killed. Bob?
That's right, Shamari. Behind me is the house where Prince George's County Police say Dakara Thompson was murdered. It's a yellow ranch-style house here on Cambridge Drive in Bowie. The authorities say the suspect lived here with other relatives.
It has really shaken us up. We've never had anything like this happen in our neighborhood.
The suspect is 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez, now facing first and second-degree murder charges, said to be from Guatemala and in the country illegally. Police say Hernandez Mendez murdered Dakara Thompson inside his bedroom in this house. Investigators not saying how she was killed or what happened inside the home leading up to her murder. The 19-year-old Thompson was last seen alive August 22nd, walking away from her car near a gas station in Lanham, apparently leaving everything but her cell phone in the car. Her family reporting Dakara missing the next day. Her body was found Sunday in a grassy area along Route 50 near Annapolis, taken and left there, police say, by suspect Hernandez Mendez. Prince George's County and Maryland State Police today telling us they had other surveillance video from the time of her disappearance showing Dakara willingly getting into a dark SUV. Police say they were able to trace that vehicle to the suspect. Investigators not sure what that was all about, what the relationship between the two may have been.
Oh, no. Oh, that is so distressing. When I saw the homicide truck, I said, oh, I hope nobody's dead in there.
Had you been following the case of this missing girl? Had you been aware of that?
I had been, because I said it's a young African-American woman, wondering why it was getting so much attention, and then hearing that the body may be hers.
Hugo Hernandez Mendez is being held without bail, has a bond hearing Monday. Prince George's County officials say Hernandez Mendez had been arrested by U.S. Park Police for a DUI in April, but he was released from federal custody.
Well, I think that the U.S. Government has made status of individuals relevant. This was someone who was in their custody, and they made the decision to release him. So I think the questions should be asked of the Justice Department.
Now, we have reached out to the Department of Justice. We're waiting to hear back from them, and we have spoken to Dakara's family today, but they said they didn't want to speak publicly about today's developments.
The digital trail had led them directly to Dakara's killer, but she had been dead for over a week by the time they connected the dots. Armed with surveillance evidence and vehicle registration records, detectives obtained a search warrant for the Cambridge Drive residence on Thursday, September 5th. What they found inside Hugo's bedroom would haunt them for the rest of their careers. Blood evidence, DNA traces, and signs of a violent struggle painted a horrific picture of Dakara's final hours. But Hugo wasn't going to make this easy. When police brought him in for questioning, he provided what Chief George Nader described as limited cooperation. Translation: he knew exactly what he'd done, but he wasn't about to confess to murdering a 19-year-old girl in cold blood. The evidence, however, spoke louder than Hugo's silence. Forensic teams found traces of Dakara's DNA throughout his bedroom, on his clothing, and in his vehicle. The digital trail that led police to his door was now supported by physical proof that Dakara Thompson had been brutally murdered in that house. Hugo Hernandez Mendez was arrested and charged with first and second-degree murder. Here's the cruel irony that should keep you awake at night. The same technology that solved Dakara's murder could have prevented it entirely. Every smartphone has GPS tracking, emergency contact features, and location-sharing capabilities that could alert loved ones when something goes wrong. Dating apps have check-in features, ride-sharing services have real-time tracking, and even basic text messages can create digital breadcrumbs. But Dakara was alone at 3 a.m. with a dead phone or no signal, making her invisible to the very systems designed to protect her. The surveillance cameras that eventually caught Hugo were passive observers, recording evidence for after the fact rather than preventing the crime in real time. We live in an age where technology can track a pizza delivery to your doorstep within minutes, but we still can't stop predators from hunting vulnerable women in parking lots. The digital age gave us the tools to catch Hugo, but it failed to save Dakara's life. Digital evidence solved Dakara's case, but it couldn't save her life. Subscribe if you believe technology should protect us before tragedy strikes. Then comment what digital safety measures you actually use. Or maybe you think privacy matters more than preventing murders. Defend your position in the comments and explain why you won't subscribe. On Thursday, September 5th, when detectives entered Hugo Hernandez Mendez's bedroom on Cambridge Drive, they walked into a crime scene that would forever change how they viewed human evil. The room looked ordinary at first glance: a bed, a dresser, some personal belongings scattered around like any other bedroom in suburban Maryland. But forensic investigators know that murder leaves traces that can't be scrubbed away with bleach and prayers. Luminol testing revealed blood spatter patterns on the walls that told a story of violence so brutal that seasoned crime scene technicians had to step outside for air. DNA evidence confirmed what everyone already feared: Dakara Thompson had been killed in this very room. The physical evidence painted a picture of a young woman who fought for her life against a predator who had lured her there under false pretenses. Torn fabric, defensive wounds patterns, and the positioning of blood evidence suggested that Dakara knew what was happening and tried desperately to escape. She died fighting, but she died alone, with no one to hear her screams in that house of horrors. Based on the evidence found in Hugo's bedroom and the timeline from surveillance footage, investigators were able to piece together Dakara's final hours with chilling accuracy. She entered that black SUV at 3:08 a.m., trusting Hugo's lies about helping her get gas or reach safety. The drive to Cambridge Drive took approximately 14 minutes. By 3:25 a.m., Dakara was inside Hugo's house, probably still believing she was getting help from a Good Samaritan. But somewhere between the front door and that bedroom, she realized the horrifying truth. The helpful stranger had become her executioner, and there was no escape from what was about to happen. Forensic evidence suggests Dakara survived in that room for at least 30 to 40 minutes, fighting against Hugo's attack with everything she had. The defensive wounds on her hands, the blood patterns on the walls, the torn clothing scattered across the floor. All of it tells the story of a 19-year-old girl who refused to give up even when death was inevitable. By 4:15 a.m., Dakara Thompson was gone. What Hugo did next reveals the cold, calculating mind of a predator who had planned for this moment. After murdering Dakara in his bedroom, he didn't panic like most killers do. Instead, he methodically cleaned up evidence, wrapped her body, and loaded it into that same black SUV that had been her death trap just hours earlier. Hugo drove Dakara's lifeless body to a remote grassy area off Route 50 in Anne Arundel County, nearly 30 miles from his house. This wasn't a random dump site. He had scouted this location, knowing it was isolated enough to delay discovery, but accessible enough for him to navigate in the darkness. He positioned her body where it would eventually be found, but not for days or possibly weeks. The calculated nature of his disposal shows that Hugo wasn't a crime of passion killer who lost control in a moment of rage. This was premeditated murder, followed by methodical body disposal. He returned home, probably showered, and went to sleep while Dakara's family was organizing search parties and printing missing person flyers. When detectives brought Hugo Hernandez-Mendez in for questioning after discovering the evidence in his bedroom, they expected either a full confession or complete denial. What they got instead was something far more infuriating, what Chief George Nader diplomatically called limited cooperation. Hugo admitted to some facts that were already proven by surveillance footage and forensic evidence, but he refused to provide details about what happened in that bedroom or why he killed Dakara. He wouldn't explain how he lured her into his vehicle, wouldn't describe her final moments, and showed no remorse for destroying a young life dedicated to serving others. This selective cooperation is a common tactic among killers who know they're caught, but want to maintain some control over the narrative. Hugo was willing to acknowledge the undeniable facts while protecting himself from additional charges or more severe sentencing. Meanwhile, Dakara's family was left with agonizing questions that only her killer could answer, and he chose silence over truth. Police found evidence of Dakara's murder in Hugo's bedroom, but he's barely cooperating while her family suffers. Hit subscribe if you believe killers who won't confess deserve no mercy. Then comment what you think Hugo's sentence should be. Or maybe you think murderers deserve privacy and protection. Justify in the comments why you refuse to subscribe to justice-focused content. Hugo Hernandez-Mendez was a ghost in the system long before he became Dakara Thompson's killer. At 35 years old, he had been living in the United States without legal status, moving through communities like Bowie, Maryland without anyone questioning his presence or monitoring his activities. He had access to vehicles, housing, and the freedom to roam wherever his predatory instincts led him. But Hugo wasn't invisible to law enforcement. In April of 2024, just 4 months before he murdered Dakara, U.S. Park Police arrested him for driving under the influence. This should have been a red flag, a moment when the system could have identified a dangerous individual and taken action to protect the community. Instead, Hugo's DUI arrest became just another case file in an overwhelmed system. He was processed, charged, and then released back onto the streets, where he would continue hunting until he found his next victim. The failure that cost Dakara Thompson her life happened at a federal courthouse, where Hugo Hernandez-Mendez should have been detained or deported after his DUI arrest. Instead, federal authorities made a decision that would haunt Dakara's family forever. They released Hugo pending trial, allowing him to disappear back into the shadows of suburban Maryland. This wasn't an oversight or bureaucratic mistake. This was a conscious choice to prioritize Hugo's convenience over public safety. While immigration courts are backlogged and detention facilities are overcrowded, the result is that dangerous individuals like Hugo remain free to commit increasingly serious crimes. Between April and August, Hugo had 4 months to escalate from drunk driving to murder. For months where he could have been monitored, detained, or removed from the country entirely. Instead, he used that time to perfect his hunting techniques and identify vulnerable targets like Dakara Thompson, who trusted strangers, offering help in the darkness. Hugo's case forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about how immigration policy intersects with public safety. This isn't about politics or partisan talking points. This is about a 19-year-old girl who died because someone who shouldn't have been here was allowed to remain free after demonstrating dangerous behavior. The debate over immigration enforcement often gets lost in abstract policy discussions, but Dakara Thompson's murder makes it personal and immediate. When someone is living illegally and commits crimes like DUI, the question becomes simple. Do we prioritize their rights or the safety of potential victims like Dakara? Hugo's release pending trial wasn't just a failure of immigration policy. It was a failure to recognize that people who break multiple laws often escalate to more serious crimes. His drunk driving wasn't an isolated incident. It was a warning sign that went unheeded until it was too late to save Dakara's life. The most terrifying thing about Hugo Hernandez Mendez isn't that he was a monster. It's that he looked like everyone else. He lived in a normal neighborhood, drove a regular SUV, and probably smiled at his neighbors when he picked up his mail. Predators don't wear signs announcing their intentions. They blend into communities, hold jobs, and maintain facades of normalcy while planning their next attack. Hugo's ability to approach Dakara at that gas station and convince her to get into his vehicle proves how skilled predators become at mimicking trustworthy behavior. He knew exactly what to say, how to position himself as a helper rather than a threat, and how to exploit the basic human instinct to trust someone offering assistance in a moment of vulnerability. Hugo was arrested for DUI in April, but released to kill Dakara in August. Subscribe if you think the system failed her. Then comment what should happen to repeat offenders. Or maybe you believe everyone deserves endless second chances, even potential killers. Explain in the comments why you won't subscribe to accountability. Dakara Thompson graduated from St. Charles High School in Waldorf with dreams bigger than herself and a heart dedicated to making the world better for everyone around her. While most 19-year-olds are focused on college parties and social media followers, Dakara chose a different path, one that led her to work at a nonprofit through a service program for recent graduates. She believed that small acts of kindness could create ripples of change that would transform entire communities. Her supervisor remembered her as the employee who stayed late to help struggling clients, who volunteered for weekend events without being asked, and who treated every person she served with dignity and respect. Dakara wasn't just doing a job. She was living out her values every single day. She helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, tutored younger students after school, and organized community cleanup events in her spare time. The communities of Lanham and Hyattsville are now mourning the loss of someone who gave more in 19 years than most people give in a lifetime. The nonprofit where Dakara worked has established a memorial fund in her name, but no amount of money can replace the lives she would have touched, the problems she would have solved, or the hope she would have brought to people who needed it most. Her death exposes critical gaps in our safety systems that we can no longer ignore. We need better lighting in 24-hour business areas, mandatory check-in systems for people traveling alone at night, and stricter monitoring of individuals with criminal records who are released pending trial. Most importantly, we need to teach young people that their safety matters more than being polite to strangers who approach them in vulnerable moments. Dakara's story should serve as a wake-up call about the predators who walk among us, hunting for victims in the early morning hours when help is miles away and screams go unheard. Hugo Hernandez Mendez is behind bars, but there are others like him out there, perfecting their techniques and waiting for their next opportunity to destroy an innocent life. Prince George's County Executive Aisha Braveboy said it best at Dakara's memorial service. This is a young woman who dedicated part of her young life to serving others, and now her community will stand behind her family as we seek justice for her. But justice isn't just about convicting Hugo. It's about preventing the next Dakara Thompson from becoming a victim. Dakara Thompson spent her short life serving others, and now she's gone because one predator was walking free. Subscribe if you believe her story matters more than your convenience. Then comment how you'll honor her memory. Or maybe you think one dead teenager isn't worth your subscription. Go ahead and explain in the comments why Dakara's life wasn't valuable enough for you to hit that button.